He never touched me. Not once. Not like them. So why do I still wake up sweating? You think silence means safety? In a few minutes, you'll learn what silence really protects. I smiled through locked doors, cooked dinner over screaming, signed papers I never read, watched bruises fade, and still said nothing. This is my story, and it's not what you think. Thank you for being here. Have you ever carried something no one noticed? Something that didn't bruise the skin, but lived in your bones? Drop a word in the comments. Anything. Where in the world are you right now? What hour finds you here? And if quiet stories with sharp edges speak to you, stay close and subscribe. There's more coming. You should be grateful he never touched you. That's what my sister said. Like that meant something. Like that made me clean. She said it at the kitchen sink, drying her hands on a towel with little daisies. The sun hit her hair just right. She looked so sure of herself. I stood there holding a box. A beat-up cardboard box I found in the attic. Inside, pictures, school papers, a broken bracelet, and a drawing of our family. The kind children make. Smiles too big, arms like spaghetti. But something was wrong with the eyes. They were black circles, empty. The box smelled like dust and old soap. I kept digging. There it was, a third-grade photo of Caroline, my daughter, missing tooth, blue headband, and just under the collar of her shirt, a shadow. Not big, not purple, just a shadow. My throat went dry. I remember that day. She said she tripped. He said she tripped. I agreed. I said it like a button you press. She fell. Kids fall. Every time. People say, how could a mother not know? Oh, we know. But we learn to not know out loud. We fold the truth. We tuck it in drawers. We place it gently into boxes, like this one, label it memories, and store it far above reach, until one day it falls. Caroline never told me. Not directly, not in words, but there were signs. So many signs I'd need another lifetime to list them, and I ignored everyone, because I thought, if I just keep things peaceful, maybe the storm won't notice us. But the storm was in the house. It wore cologne. It paid bills. It smiled at church. And it broke us anyway. I think what hurts the most is that I wasn't brave enough to be hated. That's what it would have taken. To be hated. To take the kids. Call the cops. Fight him. Face the world. I didn't. Instead, I baked. I smiled at PTA meetings. I said things like, he's strict, but he loves them. God help me, I said that. Yesterday, my grandson Lucas came over. He's 12, tall for his age, quiet. We were making pancakes. He cracked the eggs like a pro. Then, out of nowhere, he said, Mom still cries when she sees basements. I dropped the bowl. It shattered, and something inside me shattered too. For a second, I couldn't move. I just stood there, barefoot in yolk and ceramic. Grandma? He whispered. I looked at him, really looked, and I said, I think I need to tell you a story. But to tell it right, I'll have to remember things I've spent 30 years trying to forget. It started with a smell, not the memory. The memory came later. First, the smell. That heavy, metallic scent. Bleach and something under it. I opened the old laundry cabinet in the garage, and there it was. The blue sweatshirt, Caroline's, 3rd grade, faded Magic School Bus logo, and the stain, right near the shoulder seam, rust brown, stiff. I stared at it like it was talking, like it had something to say, but it didn't need to. I already knew. Back then, he said it was ketchup. Then he laughed. Tell your mom you spilled your lunch, sweetheart. He always smiled when he lied, so smooth, so casual. God, he could make a lie feel like a bedtime story. I held the sweatshirt in my hands, these same hands that used to button her coats, brush her hair, let her go. Back into that house, again and again. There are stains we scrub, and there are stains we fold and hide in the back of closets. This one? It waited. Lucas knocked on the doorframe. "You okay, Grandma?" I nodded, but something in my chest was buzzing, like a bad wire behind a wall. I put the sweatshirt down, then picked it back up, folded it, unfolded it. "Did your mom ever talk about that house?" I asked. Lucas looked at me, 12 years old but too grown, eyes like hers. He shrugged. "She says it was cold." "That's all? Cold?" Not the screaming, not the slammed doors, not the way he'd punish them by making them kneel on rice, not the basement, not the basement. I closed the cabinet, and then a flash, so fast I couldn't breathe through it. Her voice. "Mom, please don't let him..." And my voice. "Go to your room." Sharp, final. I didn't look back. I went back to folding towels, because dinner was burning, because he was watching, because fear makes cowards of the most loving people. I sat down on the washing machine. It buzzed beneath me like a warning. I pressed my hands to my chest. She was 8, asking for help, and I said, "Go to your room." Lucas was still in the doorway. He didn't say anything. I think, maybe, he knew better. "Your mom," I whispered. "She used to draw houses with no doors." He tilted his head. "That's weird." Yes, it was. But what's even weirder? I never asked why. I never asked anything. Even if it's too late to be forgiven, it's not too late to speak. There's a photo I've never thrown away. I don't keep it because it's precious. I keep it because it's proof. Caroline, age 9, a school play. She's wearing a cardboard crown and a gold fabric cape. She's smiling, too wide, her front teeth crooked. Her arm is tucked behind her back. Back then, I thought, she's just posing funny. Now I know. She was hiding a bruise. I stare at that picture now, and something happens to my hands. They shake, then they stop. Then they grip the edges of the frame like they're trying to snap it in two. I don't. I put it down, walk away, come back, put it down again. They say trauma is a thief. But no, it's more like a hoarder. It saves every sound, every glance, every lie. Then, one day, it throws it all back at you in one terrible, unforgiving wave. I remember the bruise, but not the moment. I remember the excuses, but not the screams. I remember him saying, "It's discipline," and me thinking, "It's better than what I got growing up." God forgive me. Caroline used to flinch when he came into a room, not like a jump, not dramatic, just a little ripple, a shoulder twitch, a blink too long, and I saw it 100 times, and I did nothing. What kind of mother does nothing? What kind of woman washes his shirts, hands him the belt, and whispers, "Don't overdo it, okay?" That's the memory I didn't want. That's the one that tastes like rust and shame and smoke. Lucas asked me today, "Did Mom get in trouble a lot?" I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I said the truth out loud. No, she didn't deserve a single thing she got. He blinked, nodded, then said, so simply it split me open, "I didn't think she did." There it was, an understanding, not loud, but loud enough. And that's when I knew, this can't stay in a box anymore. There's a box in the garage I haven't opened in decades, but now I think it's time. It was under the water heater, dusty, taped, the kind of box that once held a microwave or a small TV. Now, it held ghosts. I pulled it out. My knees cracked, my back protested. I didn't care. Lucas watched from the doorway, silent again. He's smart like that, knows when not to speak. The tape peeled like old skin. Inside, yellowing papers, manila folders, a few photos, and one thing that made my breath catch, a typed letter, signed by me. Parental Acknowledgement of Behavioral Correction Protocol. My name. His name. Caroline's name. I read it 3 times. It said I agreed to physical behavioral interventions when deemed necessary by the paternal guardian. I agreed. There was a moment, when I wanted to rip it, burn it, shove it down the garbage disposal and pretend I never saw it. But I didn't, because that's what I'd always done. Erase, erase, erase. This time, I held it, and I remembered. The night he printed that letter. His voice behind me, smooth as always. Just something to satisfy that social worker in case she comes snooping again. Just sign it. I had flour on my hands. I was making pie. He stood at the kitchen counter, smiling. I didn't read it. I didn't even wipe my hands. I signed. Why didn't I ask questions? Because questions made him quiet. And his quiet was worse than yelling. It meant planning. And because the pie was almost ready. Because the kids needed dinner. Because I was tired. Because I thought love meant endurance. I set the letter aside. And that's when I noticed the photo underneath. A blurry Polaroid. Caroline, age 10. She's looking at the camera, her face unsure but brave. Behind her, a shadow, him. His hand is resting on her shoulder. Her face is smiling, but her eyes aren't. Lucas pointed to the photo. Is that Grandpa? I nodded, then shook my head. He was never a grandfather. He was a shadow in our house. Lucas said nothing. Then softly, Mom never calls him Dad. I closed the box. Neither should you. That night I dreamed of her voice, but it wasn't a child's voice anymore. It was a woman's, and she was asking me one thing. Where were you, Mom? I didn't call her. I couldn't. I just showed up, with the box in the trunk. The drive took 2 hours, but it felt longer, like time was stretching me, forcing me to rehearse every sentence I wasn't sure I could say. What do you say to the daughter you didn't protect? Hi? I'm sorry? Please still love me? None of it felt enough. Nothing ever would. Caroline opened the door like she was expecting a package, not me. Oh, she said. That was it. She didn't invite me in, but she didn't shut the door either. I stepped into the hallway holding nothing, not even my purse. I'd left everything in the car, except guilt. That clung to my chest like wet cotton. She looked older, tired, but strong, like someone who's rebuilt herself with whatever was left after the storm. And I saw it, that twitch in her jaw, the one she used to get as a kid when she was holding back tears or fire. I found the letter, I said. No reaction. The one I signed, the correction protocol. Still nothing. I didn't read it back then. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. She finally looked at me and said, quiet but sharp, You always knew. You just didn't want to name it. That landed like a fist, not because it was cruel, but because it was true. I opened my mouth to defend, to explain, but stopped, because there's a moment when words just make things worse. So I nodded. We stood there in silence, the kind of silence that feels like a scream being held back. Then she asked, Do you remember the rice? My legs almost gave out. I gripped the back of a chair. You still remember that? She laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. I remember the texture. I remember how my knees bled. I remember how you walked past me, not once, not twice, 4 times. Her voice cracked. Where were you, Mom? There it was. The question. Not a metaphor, not a dream. Real. Right here. And I didn't have an answer. I swallowed, then said the only thing that felt honest. I was in the kitchen, making meatloaf and trying not to exist. She stared at me. That's not good enough. I know, I said, but it's the truth. She turned her back, walked toward the hallway, then paused. If you're here for forgiveness, I don't have it. I nodded again. Then I'm not here for that. She turned the corner, disappeared. I stood alone in her home, a stranger, a ghost, the woman who was in the kitchen. I parked outside and waited. The street looked smaller, the trees taller, the windows dirtier than I remembered. Our old house. Someone else lived there now. White curtains, 2 kids' bikes on the lawn. I sat in my car with the engine off, headlights off, world off. Just me and the house. I didn't plan on knocking. I just wanted to see it, to prove it was real, that I hadn't imagined it all. But memory's a funny thing. It fills in gaps with feelings, not facts. I remembered the basement window, low to the ground, half buried in dirt. That's where Caroline said she used to hide. I didn't believe her. Not fully. Not enough. A porch light flicked on. I flinched. The front door opened. A woman stepped out, maybe late 30s. Pajama pants, sweatshirt, sleepy eyes. She spotted me, tilted her head. I rolled down the window. I'm sorry. I used to live here. I was just remembering. She nodded, didn't smile. Want to come see it? I didn't expect that. My hands shook on the steering wheel. The house? Yeah, it's still ugly inside, she said, but it's got good bones. That made me laugh. Ugly inside, good bones. Like us, maybe. Inside, it smelled different. Less smoke, more paint. The wallpaper was gone. So was the cross above the kitchen doorway. But the floor creaked the same. And the third stair still groaned if you stepped wrong. I felt it all. I'm sorry, I said suddenly. If this is weird, you're not the first, she said. Another woman came by once, said her mom raised her in this basement. That hit me like a slap. What was her name? I asked, heart pounding. Didn't say, but she cried when she saw the back corner, said something about a blue flashlight. My knees nearly gave out. The flashlight. I'd given it to Caroline once, told her it was a magic one, that if she turned it on, it would scare monsters away. But the monster lived upstairs, and he had keys. I stood frozen in the hallway. Would it be okay if I saw the basement? I asked. She looked at me for a moment. Sure. It's dusty. The door creaked open. The air was heavier down there. Older. I took the steps slowly. My feet knew where to go, and when I reached the bottom, I saw it. That corner, where the cement cracked, where we used to keep Christmas boxes, where a child once knelt, alone, with a flashlight that wasn't magic at all. I knelt there, my knees stiff, my palms on cold ground, and I whispered, I'm here. To no one. To everyone. To a girl who needed her mother. He never hit you, right? That's what Caroline asked in the voicemail. 5 words, like 5 pins in my spine. I listened to it 5 times, and on the 6th, I said the answer out loud, just to my empty kitchen. No, he didn't. Not once. Not a slap. Not a shove. Not even a raised voice. He kept me clean, polished, intact, so I could shine in front of guests, so I could explain the bruises with a smile, so I could carry his lies like groceries from the car. I wasn't the one he hurt, but I was the one who helped him get away with it. Sometimes I wonder, would it have been easier if he had hit me? Would I have left? Would someone have believed me? Would I have believed myself? Because here's the truth. I didn't wear bruises. I wore permission. Permission to cook, to smile, to open the door when the police came and say, everything's fine, to whisper to Caroline after the door closed, just don't upset him next time, okay? God, next time. There was always a next time. People always ask the wrong question. Why didn't she leave? Try asking. Why did he stay free? Lucas was watching TV when I walked into the living room. I stood in the doorway, hands shaking. Your mom called. He turned. Everything okay? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to protect him from this mess. But no more lies. Not even soft ones. She asked if your grandfather ever hurt me. And, he said, he didn't. So why did you let him hurt her? 12 years old. He asked it like a knife in linen, clean, fast, merciless. I couldn't answer, so I walked back into the kitchen, where I always was, where I always hid. I sat at the table, pressed my fingers into the wood grain like it could absorb my guilt, and I whispered, to God, to the walls, to Caroline, to myself, because he didn't need to hit me. He used me. I never meant to post it, but somehow it went online. It was almost midnight. Lucas had gone to bed. The house was quiet in that way. Houses get when everyone inside is holding their breath. I sat in the kitchen with my phone, opened the voice recorder, and hit record. I didn't plan it. There was no script, just my voice, shaky, raw, cracking in places I didn't expect. My name is Margaret. I'm 73 years old. I had 3 children, and I let my husband hurt 2 of them. Pause. He never laid a hand on me, but I was a wall they had to scream through. Pause. I told myself I was keeping peace, but really I was keeping him comfortable. I spoke for 10 minutes about the bruises, the rice, the fake stories, the flashlight, the pie. I cried once, laughed once too, bitter and sharp. When I remembered how I told a social worker, "We're just strict, it's a Christian house." God, I should have burned for that. When I finished, I saved the file, named it, "To Caroline, you can delete this." Then I hit share. Not meaning to. Or maybe meaning to more than I thought. I uploaded it to a private page I hadn't used in years, just to store it, or so I told myself. The next morning, my phone had 32 notifications, 12 messages, 4 missed calls, 1 tag, "This is what silence sounds like breaking." It had been reposted by someone I didn't even know, and then the comments came. Hundreds, then thousands. This was my mom. This was me. I thought I imagined it, until I heard your voice. Thank you for not waiting until the funeral to speak. I froze. I wanted to delete it, to take it all back, to crawl into the box I came out of. But then Caroline called. Not a voicemail, a real call. I answered. Silence. Then she said, voice raw. I listened. Another silence. Then, I didn't know whether to scream or cry, so I did both. She didn't say she forgave me. She didn't have to, but she didn't hang up either, and that was something. She brought over a box I hadn't seen in 30 years, a diary, a cassette tape, and a truth even I wasn't ready for. She didn't knock, just opened the door like it was still her house, like I was still her mother. Caroline stood in the doorway holding an old shoebox, duct-taped, edges frayed, no makeup needed. This was in the attic of his place. Whose place? I asked. Dad's, she said, and the word cut the air like wire. She set the box down on my table, same table where I used to cut her sandwiches into triangles. Now it held a box that smelled like mold and unfinished childhood. She didn't stay, didn't sit, didn't explain. Just listen to the tape and read page 37. And she left. I stared at the box for 10 minutes, maybe longer. Then I opened it. Inside, a diary, purple, padlocked, but snapped open. A photo, Caroline, age 11, sitting alone in a school hallway. A cassette tape, labeled, "If I disappear, play this." I almost dropped it. The tape was old, scratched, warped label. I hadn't owned a cassette player in years, but Lucas had one, in the garage. He loved old tech. I asked him to bring it in. "What is it?" he asked. "A message," I said, "from someone who needed to be heard." I pressed play. Her voice, tiny, shaking, clearer than any memory. "Mom, if you find this, that means I either ran away or something bad happened. But I'm not crazy. I'm not making it up. He hurts us. Me, Danny, sometimes even Ben, but mostly me. And when I scream, you just cook louder." I couldn't breathe. Lucas turned to look at me. I waved him out of the room. He hesitated, then left. I kept listening. I wrote it all down, in the purple book, page 37. That's the worst one, but it's real. If you love me, believe me. If I'm gone, don't let him be the last word. I opened the diary, page 37. The handwriting was messier there. Tears had smudged the ink. He told me I was bad, that Mom didn't want me anymore, that she said I was dramatic. that he was fixing me. I believed him. That's the worst part. I closed the book. My hands were shaking so hard I thought I might snap it in half. Instead, I held it to my chest and whispered into the quiet, "I believe you. I'm sorry I ever didn't. And I swear, he won't be the last word." I brought the diary and tape to a lawyer. I didn't expect much, but she looked me in the eye and said, "Actually, there may still be a case." The office was small, clean, not sterile, lived in. The lawyer looked young, maybe early 30s, black blazer, curly hair, and a bun. She introduced herself as Maya Coleman, family law, trauma certified. I liked her already. I set the box on her desk like it might explode. In a way, it would. "I know it's too late," I began. "Statute of limitations, right? It's been decades." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled out gloves, opened the diary, handled the tape. She read page 37. She didn't flinch. "Did your daughter ever report it?" "Once. In 1991. They said there were no marks, and I said she was just emotional, that she made things up." I felt my stomach turn. Even saying it now made me hate my voice. Maya tapped her pen. If the abuse continued after that, and if she was under 18, some of those charges could still stand, especially with new evidence. "This?" I asked, pointing at the tape. "That, and your confession." That stopped me cold. "My what?" She smiled gently. "The audio you posted. It's part of the file now. A mother admitting failure isn't a crime, but a mother turning witness? That's rare. That's powerful." I exhaled. Something like hope. Small, misshapen, but breathing. "He'll deny everything," I said. "He always does. He's good at that." Maya nodded. "Then we bring the girl he couldn't silence, and the woman he never expected to speak." She stood. "If you're serious, Margaret, we can open this." I nodded. "Open it. Wide." On the way home, I sat in my car at a red light and laughed, out loud, because I realized something wild. For the first time since Caroline was little, I wasn't afraid of him, not even a little. 2 weeks later, I took the stand, under oath. For the first time in my life, I said the words, "I knew," and I stayed. But now I'm speaking. The courtroom smelled like cold coffee and carpet cleaner, the kind of smell that sticks to your clothes. I sat in the back, waiting for my name to be called. Caroline was already there. So was Maya, and him. He sat at the defense table, neat as ever, gray suit, trimmed nails, smiling, like always, like none of this was real. "Margaret Elkins, please take the stand." My knees shook, but they held. I walked forward, swore on the Bible. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do." Maya stood. She nodded gently. No rush. "Mrs. Elkins," she began, "when did you first suspect your husband was abusing your children?" My mouth was dry. "When Caroline was 8. Silence. Then, "Did you witness any of the abuse?" "Not directly, but I saw bruises. I saw how she flinched. I heard things through doors. I chose to believe something easier." "What did you do about it?" I stared ahead. I made pie. The room didn't laugh. They knew what I meant. "Why didn't you leave him?" "Because I was afraid. Because he never hit me. Because I thought if I just stayed quiet, maybe he wouldn't go too far." "And did he?" "He did." I looked across the room. Caroline met my eyes. No smile, no tears, just listening. And that was enough. Maya held up the diary, the tape. "Are these real?" "Yes." "Do you believe your daughter?" "I believe every word she wrote, and I hate that she had to write it at all." Then the defense had their turn. A man in a blue tie, too calm. "Mrs. Elkins, you waited 30 years to say something. Isn't it true you're only doing this out of guilt?" "Of course it's guilt," I snapped. "What else should it be? A hobby?" He blinked. I kept going. I waited 30 years because I was a coward. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not hiding anymore. He took enough from my children. He doesn't get my silence, too. Silence in the room, heavy, ringing. Even the judge looked down for a moment, like she needed a breath. Caroline walked up to me afterward. We stood in the hallway. She didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. She said, "That was the truth." And I answered, "Finally." The verdict wasn't what we hoped, but something else happened. Something that opened a door no gavel ever could. The judge's voice was calm, like she was reading a weather report. Due to the elapsed statute of limitations on key charges, this court is unable to proceed with criminal sentencing at this time. That was it. 30 years. 1,000 sleepless nights. A child's taped whisper from under a bed, and it ended in unable to proceed. Caroline stood up. No tears, just steel in her spine. She walked out before they dismissed the room. I followed her. In the hallway, she didn't look at me. "So, that's it?" "No," I said. "Not even close." Because that afternoon, a reporter showed up. She'd heard about the tape, the diary, the courtroom. "We'd like to interview you," she said. "Not him, you." That night, the story ran. Mother breaks 30 years of silence in family abuse case. Over 500,000 views in one day. The inbox filled. The messages poured in, from women, from sons, from social workers, from retired cops who remembered something about that address years ago. One message stopped me cold. It was from a woman in Oregon, 51, mother of 4. "I found a diary under my daughter's bed. After hearing your story, I read it. She's alive because of you." Another one. "My mom never said anything. You did. I needed someone too." And this one, from a girl, 14, just 4 words. "I believe my bruises." The court may have closed its doors, but the world had cracked open. Caroline came over that Sunday. No warning. She brought coffee, a peace offering in a paper cup. We sat in silence, sipped slowly. Then she said, "You did it. You made him small." I looked at her and realized no verdict could ever mean more than those 5 words. Lucas asked me to show him the house, the old one, and this time, I said yes. We drove in silence. Lucas didn't ask questions. He just looked out the window, headphones dangling around his neck, but nothing playing. I kept both hands on the wheel, like the road might buck beneath us. When we pulled up, the street was the same cracked sidewalk, same mailbox I once painted blue, different owners now, but the bones of the place, still mine, still hers, still his. Lucas stepped out of the car first. "You sure they won't mind?" "We won't go in, just around back." We walked side by side, past the garage, past the old lilac bush that somehow still bloomed, and then we stopped, in front of the basement window. It was smaller than I remembered, or maybe I had grown, or maybe grief just warps everything until it doesn't fit. "Is this where—" I nodded. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "She used to sit right there," I said, pointing at the far end, with the blue flashlight I gave her. Told her it was magic. Was it? No, it wasn't. He sat down in the grass, knees to chest. "I used to think Mom was too strict. Now I think she was just trying to survive." My throat burned. "She did more than survive. She saved herself. She saved you." He looked up at me. "You think people like him ever feel sorry?" I paused, then said, "I think some men spend their lives building a fire out of other people's bones, and when the smoke rises, they call it warmth." He nodded like he understood. Too young to know all of it, old enough to feel every word. Before we left, he placed something under the basement window, a drawing, folded, neat. "It's for Mom," he said. "I drew it after the trial. It's us, Me, her, you, and a door wide open. We drove home as the sun set, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost behind the wheel. I felt like a witness, like someone who stayed long enough to make sure the truth made it out alive. That night, I wrote 3 letters, one to Caroline, one to myself, and one to the girl in the basement. The house was quiet, Lucas asleep, news off, hands steady. I took out 3 sheets of paper and started to write. One to Caroline. My girl, I don't expect you to forget. I don't ask you to forgive. I just need you to know. The silence wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I was too afraid to lose what I had, even though what I had was already broken. You grew strong in places I never knew could carry weight. And when you tell your son the truth, I hope you leave my name out of the shadows, not because I deserve it, but because you do. 2 to myself. Dear Margaret, you thought if you kept the floors clean and the curtains drawn, the monsters wouldn't crawl in. You were wrong. They lived in your house, slept in your bed, spoke in your name, but you found your voice. Late? Yes. But grief doesn't carry a clock, and redemption doesn't knock. You have to build the door. You're not brave because you spoke. You're brave because you stayed, and still found the courage to undo the damage. 3. To the girl in the basement. I see you now. I know you waited, for footsteps that didn't turn back, for a mother that didn't open the door. You were small, so small, and I let the dark teach you lessons I should have burned down first. You believed the man who hurt you because I taught you to. I told you monsters wore costumes. I forgot to say sometimes they wear wedding rings. I am sorry. I am so endlessly, aching sorry. If I could go back, I would pull you into the light. I would tear that house down with my bare hands. But I can't. So instead, I built this truth, word by word, brick by brick, and you don't have to live in that basement anymore. I folded the letters, didn't seal them, didn't mail them, but I placed them in the shoebox, next to the diary, next to the tape, and I left a note on top. Read these when you're ready, not to forgive me, but to know I never stopped remembering. Caroline came over the next morning. She didn't say a word. She just opened the box. And for once, we read the same story together. I heard the door open. No knock, no announcement, just the weight of her steps across the floor. She walked straight to the table, saw the box, sat down. I didn't speak. She opened it. One by one, she unfolded the letters. Read them silently. Her face didn't crack. Her shoulders didn't shake. She just read. When she got to the 3rd one, her fingers tightened, just for a second. Then she closed the page and looked up. You remember everything now? I nodded. Not everything, but enough. She nodded too. Me too. There was a long silence, but it didn't feel like before. This one didn't buzz with tension. It rested, like a wound that stopped bleeding. Caroline reached into her purse, pulled out a photograph, old, folded, creased, the one where she wore the cardboard crown, the bruise under her shirt, the smile too wide. She slid it toward me. Keep it, so next time you forget, you don't. I took it in both hands, didn't cry, didn't apologize, just held it like a promise. Lucas came downstairs a few minutes later, saw us at the table. You guys okay? Caroline looked at me. I looked at her. And for the first time in decades, our answer matched. Yeah, we are. Not perfect, not healed, but not hiding. After she left, I placed the photo next to the tape. That shoebox, once filled with silence, now held a record of pain, of truth, of voices finally heard. I don't know who will open it next. Maybe Lucas, maybe his daughter, maybe no one. But if they do, they'll see something we never had back then, a beginning, not a burial. If you're still here and this story spoke to you, consider subscribing to the channel. so you won't miss the next one?